Good afternoon. This is the guide number 5 for General and Applied Linguistics. This time we're going to talk about grammar and morphology. To better understand, we first are going to check some definitions.
Morph comes from the Greek word morphe, that means form. So, morphology literally means the study of forms. Morphology is the study of the form of the words or how they are formed and their relationship to other words in the same language. It analyzes the structure of words and parts of words such as stems, root words, prefixes, and suffixes.
Morphology looks for the smallest meaningful part of a word. Those minimal units of meaning or grammatical functions are known as morphemes. For example, let's take the word unbreakable and break it in the smallest meaningful parts. Then we have un, break, and able.
We can find two kinds of morphemes. There are free morphemes, those that can stand by themselves as single words, for example, open and tool. There are also bound morphemes, which are those forms that cannot normally stand alone and are typically attached to another form. These forms are called affixes. So we can say that all affixes in English are bound morphemes.
Free morphemes fall into two categories. The first category is that set of ordinary nouns, adjectives, and verbs. These free morphemes are called lexical morphemes. We can add new lexical morphemes to the language rather easily, so they are treated as an open class of words.
Other types of free morphemes are called functional morphemes. This set consists largely of the functional words in the language, such as conjunctions, prepositions, articles, and pronouns. Because we almost never add new functional morphemes to the language, they are described as closed class of words. The set of affixes that make up the category of bound morphemes can also be divided into two types. The derivational morphemes. There is a list of derivational morphemes will include suffixes such as the ish in foolish, li in quickly, and the ment in payment. A derivational morpheme can change the grammatical category of a word.
The second set of bound morphemes are called inflectional morphemes. These are used to show if a word is plural or singular, if it is past tense or not, and if it is a comparative or possessive form. English has only 8 inflectional morphemes or inflections. An inflectional morpheme never changes the grammatical category of a word.
What's the difference between morphs and allomorphs? A morph is the phonetic realization of the morpheme or the way it is formed. An allomorph is the way or ways a morph can potentially sound. Allophone describes the actual realization of a morph's sound.
Now let's talk about word formation processes. These are the processes by which new words are created and added to the language. Let's take a look at some of them.
Coinage, the invention of totally new terms.
Borrowing, the taking over of words from other languages.
Compounding, the joining of two separate words to produce a single form.
Blending, similar to compounding, but taking only the beginning of one word and joining it to the end of the other word.
Clipping, when a word of more than one syllable is reduced to a shorter form, usually beginning in casual speech.
Back formation, when a word of one type, usually a noun, is reduced to form a word of another type, usually a verb.
Conversion, a change in the function of a word, as for example when a noun comes to be used as a verb without any reduction, is generally known as conversion.
Acronyms are a special type of words. These are new words formed from the initial letters of a set of other words, like CD or VCR or Chad, cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers. Many acronyms simply become everyday terms such as laser, radar, and zip code. We have here in the studio a famous linguist and author of the book The Study of Language, Dr. George Joule. Good evening, Mr. Joule. Can you tell the people at home what is grammar?
I will define it as the process of describing the structure of phrases and sentences in such a way that we account for all the grammatical sequences in a language and rule out all the ungrammatical sequences. I think that's one way of defining grammar.
Thank you very much, Dr. George Joule, linguist and author. Now, let's turn our attention to 5 fundamental units of grammatical structure. These are the morpheme, word, phrase, clause, and sentence. These constitute what is called the grammatical hierarchy, which can be represented systematically as sentences on top, which consist of one or more clauses. These consist of one or more phrases, which in time consist of one or more words, which are made up of one or more morphemes.
A word sense is one of the meanings of a word. A dictionary may have over 50 different senses of the word play, each of these having a different meaning based on the context of the word's usage in a sentence. How many word senses of the word word can you put into words?
In linguistics, a word can be defined as the smallest sequence of phonemes that can be uttered in isolation with objective or practical meaning.
A word can be something spoken or written, a remark or a statement. His grandfather's words mean a lot to him.
A word can mean a talk or conversation. Excuse me, Mr. Joule, can I have a word with you, please?
A word can be a command, a password, or signal. Someone gave me the word to start playing!
Words can also make reference to communication or news. We have not yet received word from the space station.
Another sense of the word word can be one's account of the truth. It is his word against mine.
Word can make reference to the text or spoken part of a play, opera, or another performed piece, a script. He had to learn his words.
Words can be used to express agreement or affirmation. Well, that's a good record, man.
So, 8. We could find 8 word senses for the word word. And that is that for guide number 5. See you next guide.